Alarm screamed through the alien research station, sharp enough to cut through metal and nerves alike. Red lights flashed in jagged pulses, turning every hallway into a stuttering nightmare. A violent shudder rolled through the floor, as if something enormous had slammed against the hull from the outside. Scientists stumbled, grabbing walls, shouting over each other. None of them knew what was happening. And standing at the center of the chaos was the alien scholar who once laughed at the old stories of humans, now frozen in fear. Another impact. The lights flickered to black, then returned with a sickly blue glow. Dust drifted from the ceiling like falling ash. Somewhere deep in the station, something metallic groaned, long, low, and alive. A voice crackled through the speakers. Broken. Panicked. Unknown object, breaching, we can't. The message cut off with a wet, tearing sound. The scholar felt her heart's pounding. She had studied war myths for fun. She had mocked the idea of human warriors, calling them primitive stories told to frighten younglings. But now she smelled smoke. She heard things running. And she realized she was not prepared for real danger. A corridor door buckled inward. Not opened. Not cut. Crushed, as if enormous hands had squeezed it from both sides. The metal folded like soft clay. Sparks sprayed out. A wave of cold air pushed through. For a moment, nobody could move. Nobody dared breathe. Then came the pod. It shot through the ruined doorway like a thrown spear, small, human-made, and burning red from atmospheric entry. It rolled across the floor, scraping sparks, screaming against the metal until it slammed into the far wall and stopped. Silence swallowed the room. Even the alarms seemed to hesitate. The pod's outer shell hissed. Steam curled around it. The scholar stared at it, throat tight, unable to look away. Everyone knew the station had not sent a rescue beacon. No human ship was nearby. No human pod should even be in this region of space. Yet it was here, and something inside it was moving. The scholar stepped back. Not bravely, instinctively. Old stories flickered in her mind. Tales of humans surviving impossible odds. Tales she never believed. A crack formed down the center of the pod. A sharp, splitting noise echoed like bone breaking. Hot white light leaked through the opening. The pod split wider. A shadow shifted inside. Oh, slow, wrong. Then a voice whispered from within. Soft, human, and speaking her name. And that was impossible, because no human should even know she exists. A sharp blast of freezing air burst from the pod, hitting everyone like a wave of ice. The alarms glitched, stuttering into a broken digital howl. The lights dimmed again, then surged bright as if something was draining power. The scholar stumbled back as 3 metal panels ripped themselves off the pod's frame. Every scientist in the room raised their weapons, even though none of them knew what they were aiming at. A human stepped out. But he did not walk like a normal man. He moved with a slow, heavy weight, as if gravity itself was pulling harder on him. His suit was torn, scorched, and soaked with blood, none of it red. He looked around the room with hollow, darkened eyes. Not frightened. Not desperate. Just tired. In a way that did not belong to a living person. The scholar felt her skin tighten. This was not the kind of warrior the myths described. This man looked like he had crawled out of something worse than war. He spoke once. A whisper. You should have left me out there. The room fell silent. Then the lights above them flickered again. Only this time, they flickered in a pattern. 3 short pulses. 1 long pulse. Another long pulse. The human's head snapped toward the ceiling. He knew that pattern. Nobody else did. The scholar felt a tremor beneath her feet. A deep vibration, like something massive sliding along the outer hull of the station. Several scientists checked their scanners. Every screen showed static. Every signal was jammed. Only one device flickered to life, a small wrist pad worn by the human. Its display flashed a warning in a language none of them could read. But the color told them everything. Black alert. A code no alien system used. A code meant for humans only. The man staggered forward, gripping the wall. His suit hissed, injecting something into his veins. His pupils sharpened, focusing. Listen, he rasped. It followed me. A scientist stepped closer. Followed? What followed you? He didn't answer. Instead, his shaking hand pointed at the crushed doorway where the pod had entered. The metal was bending again. But this time, nothing touched it. The scholar watched as invisible pressure pressed against the steel, bending it inward, forming dents shaped like claws she could not see. Then a new figure arrived, running hard down the hallway. A young alien officer, breathless, eyes wide with terror. He shouted, "We have a breach. Something is inside the walls." The human's expression collapsed into dread. He whispered a word none of them recognized. A word that made his voice crack. Cliffhanger. It didn't come alone. The hallway lights snapped to full brightness, then exploded in a shower of sparks. A low-frequency pulse rolled through the station, strong enough to rattle bones. The young officer froze mid-step, as if hearing something the others could not. The human's wrist pad vibrated and displayed a new symbol, one he clearly did not expect. The scholar noticed his face change from fear to something colder. He pressed a hidden button on the pad. A tiny metal shard unfolded from his sleeve, glowing faint blue. Not a weapon. A tracker. He whispered. Someone here invited it. The officer flinched. A guilty reaction. Too quick. Too sharp. The scholar saw it, and so did the human. Before anyone could speak, the walls around them rippled like disturbed water. Not physically, just the image. For a moment, reality bent, revealing a dark shape sliding behind the metal. A shadow with no body. A presence, not a creature. It brushed along the walls like smoke trapped inside iron. The officer panicked, bolting toward a security door. He struck the control panel, screaming for it to open. The door denied access. The system knew he wasn't authorized. Or maybe, someone revoked his access minutes ago. The human stepped forward. His voice was low and steady. "Tell them what you did." The officer shook violently. No, I didn't think it would reach the station this fast." He stopped himself too late. The scholar felt sick. This wasn't a random attack. Someone inside had brought the invisible threat to them. A sharp metallic snap echoed overhead. A ventilation grate twisted open by invisible claws. Something dripped through, thick, black, and acidic, burning holes in the floor. The scholar's legs trembled. Her mind screamed to run, but her body wouldn't obey. The acid sizzled through the metal until it formed a perfect circle. A warning. A signature. The human stared at it with grim recognition. "This thing doesn't hunt," he said. "It gathers." His wrist pad beeped again. A new map appeared, showing multiple black dots across the station. Not one creature. Dozens. Moving closer. The officer screamed and ran. He didn't get far. The floor beneath him bent upward, folding like fabric, trapping his legs. He clawed at the metal as invisible force dragged him backward into the dark. The scholar watched in shock as the officer vanished into the wall itself. No remains. No sound. Just silence. The human's eyes darkened. "They're not here to kill us," he whispered. "They're here to take someone." He turned slowly toward the scholar. "Cliffhanger. And they came for you." Panic erupted the moment the human's words hit the air. Two scientists bolted for the stairwell, only to find the door fused shut. Another tried calling command, but her comm device melted in her hand. The floor trembled again, harder this time, like something heavy was crawling beneath them. The scholar felt everyone's eyes turn toward her, accusing, terrified, desperate. She stepped back instinctively. "I don't know why it wants me," she whispered, voice cracking. The human watched her too closely, too calmly. He wasn't afraid of the creatures. He was afraid of her reaction. Then the alarms shifted tone. Deep. Hollow. A station-wide emergency code none of them had ever heard before. The human muttered, "They're inside the command core." A scientist grabbed the scholar's arm. "Did you contact them? Did you bring this thing here?" She shoved him away, trembling with anger and confusion. "No. I don't even know what they are." The human stepped between them. "Argue later. Move now." He tapped his wrist pad again. This time a band of dark metal slid up from beneath his skin, forming a collar around his throat. His eyes went fully black, like void swallowing the light. The scholar gasped. It wasn't armor. It was an activation device. He spoke with a new voice, lower, controlled, almost inhuman. War memory. Level 3. The remaining scientists recoiled. They had heard rumors about war memory, illegal neural modes that humans once used in ancient battles. But no one had ever seen one activate. The human turned his head in slow, precise movements, listening to sounds none of them could detect. "They're close," he whispered. "And they're trying to corner us." A steel beam came crashing down behind them, crushed by invisible force. Acid splashed across the floor, hissing, spreading like hungry vines. The creatures were shaping the environment, preparing something. The scholar's hands shook as she reached inside her pocket. Something small and oval pressed against her fingers. She didn't want anyone to see it, especially not the human, especially not now. But he noticed her hesitation. His black eyes narrowed. "What are you hiding?" Before she could answer, the ceiling above them dented inward. Something heavy was walking above the metal tiles, circling them. Another dent formed. Then another. Then the ceiling cracked open, raining dust. The human grabbed the scholar and shoved her back. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "Not protective, strategic." A giant claw mark ripped across the ceiling panel. The metal split wide. A shape began to drop down through the opening. Huge, tall, and still invisible. Then a second voice echoed from above. Familiar. Terrifying. "Cliffhanger," a human voice whispered. "Stand down. She belongs to us." A figure dropped through the broken ceiling before the others could react. Not a creature. Not a monster. A man. A second human, armed, confident, and pointing a weapon straight at the first. The scientists screamed and scattered. The new human didn't even look at them. His eyes locked onto the scholar with a cold, practiced focus. "She's the target," he said. "Hand her over." The first human stepped forward, body tense, voice low. "You weren't supposed to be here." "And you weren't supposed to keep her alive," the newcomer replied. The scholar felt the air tighten around her. A betrayal. Not from aliens. From humans. The station groaned deeply, as if the invisible creatures sensed the tension. Panels vibrated. Lights dimmed again. The creatures were drawing closer, circling like shadows around prey. Yet the new human looked calm. Too calm. He pressed a code on his gauntlet. A strange pulse rippled through the hallway. Invisible waves rolled outward. The creatures stopped moving, frozen in place. The first human stared in shock. "You have a binding field?" The new human smirked. "Command doesn't trust soldiers with important jobs. They trust hunters." All around them, the walls hummed. The invisible shapes remained motionless, held by the field like trapped ghosts. For the first time since the breach began, the room was quiet. The scholar's heart pounded so hard she felt dizzy. "Why me?" she asked, voice barely a breath. Neither man answered immediately. The new human reached into his coat. He pulled out a metal cube, small, black, glowing at the seams. He set it on the floor. The cube unfolded into a floating hologram of the scholar's face. Her eyes. Her markings. Her exact genetic pattern. "Because you're the key," he said. "To what?" she demanded. He hesitated. The first human didn't. "To doors that should have stayed closed." The scientist nearest the wall stumbled back, staring at something behind the hologram. A message flickered on the new human's gauntlet. Not a command signal. A tracking signal. Coordinates. He'd been guiding the creatures. Deliberately. The first human roared and lunged, the two clashing in a storm of fists, metal, and sparks. The binding field faltered. The creatures twitched. Awakening. The cube beside them projected another image suddenly, an ancient symbol none of the aliens recognized, but the two humans did. Their fight froze in mid-motion. Both stared at it with fear. The scholar stepped closer, trying to understand. The symbol shifted, then displayed a single word in human language. A name. Her name. And beneath it, one more line burned into the air. Cliffhanger. Primary activation. Begin. The hologram flared brighter, filling the hallway with harsh white light. The scholar staggered back as the symbol on the cube twisted into a new shape. Her body reacted before her mind did. Her skin burned, her pulse spiked, her vision sharpened. The humans stopped fighting, both staring at her as if seeing something impossible. The creatures surrounding them shuddered, as though answering the hologram's call. The cube projected another line of text, one no alien language carried. Genetic lock identified. The scholar shook her head. No, I'm not part of any human program. But her voice did not sound certain. The first human stepped closer, moving with caution as if approaching a bomb. You weren't told what you are. The new human cut him off sharply. We don't have time. Activate the memory file. He slammed his palm onto the cube. A new hologram burst upward. Grainy, damaged, old. It showed an alien laboratory. But not this species. Something older, taller, extinct. In the image, a group of ancient scientists worked around a stasis chamber. Inside the chamber, a small child. Her species. Her markings. Her eyes. The scholar felt her throat close. The image flickered to another scene. The same child, older, surrounded by human soldiers. Not prisoners. Protected. Guarded like a weapon too dangerous to lose. Her legs weakened. No, this is fake. It has to be. The first human shook his head. We found you. Your whole species was created to interface with what's coming. The hallway lights began to dim again. The creatures moved, finally breaking free of the binding field. Their invisible bodies shimmered with heat distortion, all turning toward her. The new human pointed his weapon at her. We end it now. The first human knocked the weapon aside. She's not a tool. She didn't choose this. Another shockwave hit the station. Panels flew off the walls. The floor buckled. A deeper, darker sound echoed through the metal. Something far larger than the creatures had arrived. The cube projected one final image. A massive ring-like structure in deep space. Half machine, half something alive. And at its center, a silhouette shaped exactly like the scholar. The scholar's breath shook in her chest. Her hand moved to the object in her pocket, the small oval she had hidden earlier. The moment her fingers touched it, the object pulsed and glowed, responding to the cube's activation. The humans stared in disbelief. That's the key, the first human whispered. You had it all along. The creatures charged. The oval in her hand heated. The hologram around her reshaped into a doorway of light. Cliffhanger, she either steps through it, or the creatures will take her first. The light doorway exploded outward before she could move. A blast of force knocked everyone off their feet. The walls bent as if pulled by enormous invisible hands. The creatures screeched, a sound like metal grinding against bone. Then something stepped through the doorway. It wasn't a creature. Not human. Something older. A towering figure made of shifting light and dark, its shape flickering like a broken memory. The scholar froze. Her markings glowed against her will, responding to the being's presence. The two humans raised their weapons, but both hesitated. This was not something they could shoot. This was something that watched civilizations rise and fall. The being stretched its flickering limbs. Its face shifted between forms, alien, human, unknown, changing every second. Finally it settled on one shape. A tall, ancient version of the scholar's species. The new human cursed under his breath. The archivist. The first human pulled the scholar behind him. You said it was dead. The new human shook his head slowly. I said the species was extinct. Not their machines. The archivist's voice spoke in layered tones. Distorted. Echoing. Terribly calm. Subject unlocked. Phase 2 begins. Before anyone could react, the station shifted violently. Not shaking, moving. As if caught by a tractor beam pulling it toward something far away. A screen on the wall flickered to life. It showed a massive object outside. A colossal ring, the same one from the hologram, now only minutes away. It wasn't drifting. It was waking up. The creatures in the hallway suddenly stopped attacking. They turned toward the archivist instead, bowing their heads low, like loyal animals returning to a master. So they weren't predators. They were servants. The scholar's fear twisted into something deeper. Recognition. A feeling she didn't understand, buried in her bones. The archivist addressed her again. You were made to finish what we began. The two humans reacted instantly. The first human grabbed her arm. Don't listen. This thing started a war that wiped out worlds. The new human raised his rifle at the archivist. And it wants to use you to restart it. The archivist didn't blink. You misunderstand. The war never ended. Another shockwave tore through the station. Windows shattered. Gravity tilted. The ring outside activated a second band of glowing symbols, synchronizing with the oval object in her hand. The station's AI crackled through broken speakers. Collision with unknown megastructure in 60 seconds. The scholar's markings flared again, bright, burning white. She screamed as memories she never lived slammed into her mind. Her creators. The war. The purpose. The truth of why humans feared her species. The archivist reached out a hand. Come, child. The final sequence is ready. The humans stepped in front of her. Weapons raised. Voices trembling. Cliffhanger. And then, the station began to break apart around them. The ground shakes as the light thickens around them. Faces turn white. Everyone sees the shape inside the glow, and they finally understand something is horribly close. No one speaks. Air feels thin, like the world is holding its breath. The shape moves. A tall figure, shadowed, almost human. Ray steps back, her heart racing. She knows this presence. She has felt it watching for days, maybe longer. A deep rumble rolls across the broken street. Dust lifts in spirals. The figure raises one hand, and the glow bends around it like a living thing. Jalen whispers, This was never about the city. His voice shakes. The figure tilts its head, as if studying them. Its outline flickers, revealing pieces of metal, bone, and something else. Something alive. Kiro's breath stutters. He remembers the marks on the tunnel walls. He remembers the pattern scratched into the steel door, the pattern he hid from the others. The truth edges closer. They see it in the figure's strange light, in the way the shadows mimic their movements. Ray realizes their fear wasn't the beginning. It was the result. A crack splits the ground behind them. Heat rises through the gap. Mira shouts a warning and pulls Arlo away from the edge. The city groans, metal twisting below their feet. Jalen's hand slips into his coat. He grips the small black device he stole in Part 5. He never told anyone what it does. He never dared to. Now the figure looks straight at him, like it already knows. A pulse of light spreads outward. Their shadows stretch long and thin. Ray sees something inside the pulse, a memory that isn't hers. A tower. A door. A voice calling her name from another time. She almost falls. Mira grabs her arm, eyes wide. Ray, what did you see? Ray can't answer. She is shaking too hard. Another pulse. Stronger. It hits the broken buildings and peels away their outer layers like paper. Underneath, strange marks are carved into the stone, the same marks from the tunnels, the same pattern Kiro hid. He steps forward, guilt burning across his face. I knew, he says quietly. I knew these marks long before today. The ground stops shaking. Silence drops heavy. The figure lowers its hand, focusing all its attention on Kiro now. Jalen pulls the device from his coat. A thin red line glows across its surface. He whispers, If this thing comes closer, I press it. The figure takes one step. The device activates itself. Everything flashes white. A warning tone screams through the white light. A rising beep. Faster. Everyone panics. The glow thins, revealing the street again, but twisted, warped, like it's breathing. Ray drops to one knee, clutching her head. Shapes move inside the air itself. Jalen tries to shut off the device, but the screen rejects his touch. A countdown begins in red numbers. The figure steps closer, unaffected by the chaos. Its shadow stretches across the broken road, reaching toward Kiro. Kiro backs away, shaking, whispering something under his breath, A word he hasn't said in years. The ground splits again. This time, something rises out, a pillar of metal covered with the same marks Kiro hid from the team. Mira gasps. Arlo stumbles away, terrified. A twist hits them like a punch. The marks on the pillar begin to light up, one by one. Ray recognizes the pattern. She saw it in the pulse. She saw it on the door from the memory that wasn't hers. Jalen slams the device against a chunk of concrete. It doesn't even crack. The countdown keeps shrinking. The pillar emits a low hum. The hum grows into a tone that vibrates their bones. Mira covers her ears. Arlo screams. And then, a second figure appears behind the first. Same shape. Same shifting outline. But this one limps, as if broken. Kiro freezes. His eyes widen with recognition. He whispers, that one came to me before." Ray stares at him, betrayed. "You knew they could come here?" Kiro doesn't answer. A tear rolls down his cheek. It's fear, not guilt. The broken figure raises its hand. The air bends around Kiro. It pulls him forward like a magnet. Ray sprints toward him, but the force pushes her back. Mira grabs her arm before she falls again. Arlo shouts something they can't hear over the rising hum. Jalen tries one last time to pry open the device. A panel slides out on its own. Inside is not a bomb, but a small glass cylinder, glowing faint blue. Ray sees it and gasps. "I've seen that. In the pulse. In the tower." The first figure stops moving, as if waiting for someone to notice the cylinder. Jalen lifts it slowly. The glow rises up his arm like static. The pillar's markings flare bright gold. The street shakes violently. The broken figure pulls Kiro to its side. He reaches toward Ray, desperate, terrified. The first figure opens its chest. Inside is something that should be impossible. Inside the figure's open chest, they see a face. A human face. Kiro's face. Older. Scarred. Watching them from inside the machine. Ray freezes. Her breath stops. The glow around Kiro's double flickers, as if reacting to his shock. The older Kiro opens his mouth, but the words form in their heads instead of the air. "This was always your world's ending, and your beginning." Jalen shakes his head, refusing the truth. Mira steps back, trembling. Arlo looks at Kiro like he is seeing a ghost wearing his skin. The broken figure lowers Kiro onto the ground gently, as if protecting him. The pillar lights spin faster. Older Kiro's voice fills the street again. "I sent the pulse. I opened the fractures. I brought myself here to stop the same mistake I once made." Ray stares at the cylinder in Jalen's hand. It glows brighter now, reacting to the words. She whispers, "So the pulse was you." Older Kiro nods, his face straining under some invisible weight. "I built this world. Not alone, but with them." He gestures to the two figures beside him, their shimmering bodies tightening like armor around the light. The street reshapes around them, bending like memory. Buildings melt into outlines. Time feels thin, stretched. The truth falls into place piece by piece, like trapped stars. Jalen whispers, "You didn't come to destroy us." Older Kiro finishes, "I came to stop you from becoming me." A surge rises from the pillar, a flood of images, moments, futures that never happened yet. Ray sees them all. A world twisted by the device. Cities made of light and noise. People losing themselves inside the fractures. And Kiro at the center of every path. Mira cries, not from fear but from understanding. "Kiro wasn't the target," she says. "He was the key." Older Kiro steps forward. His voice softens. "You must break the cycle. You must choose a different ending. The cylinder. It's the reset." Jalen holds it up. The glow is almost blinding now. Arlo shields his eyes. Ray reaches for Kiro's hand. He squeezes hers, shaking, terrified of what choosing might mean. Older Kiro speaks one last time. "If you activate it, you erase the path that creates me. If you don't, the fractures will spread and consume everything." The street cracks again. The world trembles. Ray whispers, "Kiro, What do we do? Kiro looks at the glowing cylinder. He steps forward. He lifts his hand. He makes his choice. And the world answers with a sound no human has ever heard.